President Trump prepares to visit Dayton and El Paso in the wake of the deadly shootings. As pressure mounts on Congress to pass gun control legislation, will they act? Critical gaps in fighting domestic terrorism, how the U.S. may need to rethink its national security efforts in the post-9/11 era. Plus, are video games responsible for mass shootings? The president says they play a role. But we'll take a look at the evidence. CBSN continues now. Hi, everyone. I'm Rena Ninen. Thank you for joining us. President Trump is expected to visit Dayton, Ohio and El Paso, Texas tomorrow as those communities mourn the 31 people killed in two separate mass shootings. Memorials have grown in size as have calls for elected officials to do something to avoid future shootings. In the aftermath of those attacks, stories of heroism have emerged from those who tried to shield others from the gunmen, as have stories of sorrow from the families who lost loved ones. Meanwhile, police are learning more about the shooters, their past, how they got their guns, and whether there were any missed warning signs. We're also getting a look at the chaotic scene inside the Ned Pepper's bar in Dayton when the shooting started. The bar decided to reopen at its normal time on Monday because the manager said it was important for the community to get a sense of normalcy. Natalie Brand is in Dayton, Ohio. Natalie, we'll begin with you. What's the latest in Dayton?
Well, Rena, we still don't have any answers this afternoon about motive. We know police are still in the early stages of this investigation. Earlier today, in front of this growing memorial behind me, we actually saw some detectives return to the crime scene and walk the sidewalk from the curb to the bar as they try to piece together what happened early Sunday morning. This shooting massacre killing 9 victims. We saw you showed earlier, some of that really disturbing cell phone video that details the traumatizing moments as the shooting unfolded. We talked to one survivor who said all she could think about doing was surviving as she ran from Ned Pepper's bar. Now, again, while there's no official updates on the investigation, we know that police are no doubt looking into the suspect Connor Betts' background, maybe even his high school past, even though the police chief said that he was reluctant to look at information from more than a decade ago. There have been reports that have emerged about former classmates who say Betts made a hit list. Inside Edition talked to one former classmate who detailed some of the threats.
He had like this weird smile that was kind of offsetting. I know he got off on making people afraid. He liked scaring people. A lot of people were talking about how he was a bully himself. He would just laugh at people just from hurting them. He got joy out of making people scared. He did make threats often, like just on a dime. It was like it didn't faze him, like he didn't have empathy towards what killing somebody meant and the consequences of that. I had heard that he had threatened to kill one of his ex-girlfriends, but I mean, that kind of goes back to the hit list. It wasn't really anything new with him as far as threatening to kill an ex.
Now, the mayor of Dayton stopped by this scene a short time ago, and I asked her whether police are looking into those reports of his high school past, whether there's any more information about that separate investigation that may have occurred years ago, and she said, not at this time. Rena?
So, Natalie, I'm just curious, with the president planning a visit there, how are city officials planning on welcoming, and what's the mood on the ground?
Well, the mayor, who is a Democratic mayor, said that she will welcome the president in her official capacity, but she also said that she expects there to be protesters. She said that the president's rhetoric has been painful to many in this community. We also know she was critical of the president's comments yesterday as she's called for gun safety measures. The mood out here, it's really a range of emotions on the ground, from extreme grief and pain by those visiting this crime scene, and also shock and anger. Calls. We've watched people come to this 5th Street and march up and down the street demanding change when it comes to gun laws.
Talking about demanding change, we know the governor of Ohio has been facing pressure to act on gun control. Has he signaled that he'll be taking any steps?
Well, this morning he held a news conference. This is a Republican governor, Mike DeWine of Ohio. He outlined a series of proposals regarding gun safety and mental health, and that includes a safety protection order, something that we've seen in other states where if there are red flags, a family member or loved one could potentially petition law enforcement, who would then investigate whether or not someone should have their gun Second Amendment rights. Here's a clip from Governor DeWine's news conference.
Police and sheriff's deputies also need to be able to activate the criminal justice system when they find an individual in that situation. When they find someone who is in danger, who is a danger to themselves or who's a danger to others and has access to a gun. That's why today I'm asking the legislature to pass a law to allow courts to issue safety protection orders.
The governor also talked about expanding background checks and early intervention, which includes at the high school level. Mike DeWine talked about this suspected shooter having red flags, and he also announced today wanting to expand the state school safety tip line, which is anonymous. Rena?
All right, interesting measures there, proposals. Natalie Brand, I want to thank you very much for joining us. We turn now to Janet Shamlian in El Paso, Texas. Janice, what more do we know?
Rena, good morning from El Paso, a city that is starting to take the very first steps, and they are baby steps in the recovery after what happened here. I wanted to set the scene for you. I'm in downtown El Paso at the convention center, and authorities have established this is the location where people can come today if they bring proof of ownership of a vehicle to actually pick their vehicle up. So what we've seen this morning is a few people kind of streaming in with that documentation. They go in and visit with authorities. They get a kind of a stamp of approval, if you will, before they go back over to the Walmart, where they can now for the first time enter that parking lot and pick up their vehicles. We heard from one woman in particular this morning, a Walmart worker, who was extremely distraught. She came here, she needed to get her car. She'd been at the Walmart for a long time and wasn't planning to go back to work anytime soon. She was clearly still in shock from the events of the past couple of days. Another woman came and spoke to us as well, again, very upset. So this is an example of the people who were in the store and where they are in the grieving and recovery process, and clearly it is not very far. We also spoke with the state representative, Veronica Escobar, just moments ago, who came in to meet some of those people who were in the Walmart. And she talked about President Trump's visit tomorrow, how her office is getting inundated with people who do not want the president to come here, what she called, described as hate emails. She is hoping to see something from the president tomorrow that will be an olive branch, if you will, or some sort of reaching out to the city of El Paso. As you know, it's been very contentious between the mayor of El Paso and the president in the past over the immigration status of the city and people coming in to this city illegally. Earlier this morning, Rena, we also saw that memorial again. It continues to grow, and people from every walk of life continue to visit there and come with flowers and candles and cards and letters just to sort of pay some sort of homage to the victims of this tragedy.
It is just so incredible to see how a community reaches out to each other and in such a horrific moment. I want to thank you, Janet Shamlian in El Paso. Thank you, Janet.